Hi guys, hope you're all having a great day. This is a painting I did because of a request. Somebody, I can't remember who it was that asked me, but in one of the comments, and I've looked for it, I can't find it now, have asked me to use a standard brush or an airbrush. So I thought I'd have a go with an airbrush. I have used an airbrush once before when I was drawing a pheasant, but I thought never in Artrage. So I opened up Artrage and I looked at the airbrushes and I liked the effect I was getting. But then I started to look at the stencils. Took me a little while to get my head around those. But once I did, I just used a couple. I used a little rectangle stencil and a circle to produce this painting, or you might call it a graphic design of some hills out at Buxton. So let's have a look at how I painted this one. I wanted to do a quick sketch for this painting, so I used the ink pen brushes. I used the billboard brush because the photo or the source picture is in sort of a long panoramic view. I wanted to change it drastically and put it in portrait view, so I just did this really rough sketch just to give me an idea of where I was going to place all the objects within my painting. So that's sort of, I mean, this is really rough, but it just gave me an idea of the flow of how the whole thing was going to work. And once I got that set up, I turned that layer off, created a new layer, and started using these airbrushes. And I've used them before to create backgrounds, but I've never used them to produce a full painting. So as I'm in my new studio, and this is the very first piece that I've done, I thought it would be great to sort of push boundaries and use some brushes that I've never tried before and some techniques. I have used a conventional airbrush before, so I kind of got the concept right. So anyway, I begin by using the slow flow Tinta brush, but I put the pressure right up so I got a lot stronger colour. And I found that with these, if you look closely, you can see the blend mode is set to colour. So when the colours overlap, they do these weird and wonderful things of sort of changing the colours. Like you can see where the blue overlaps the grey, the yellow, you get this sort of turquoisey colour and things going off. So I really like that. And also I discovered that using the pencil on my Cintiq, if I sort of changed the angle, I could get a different sharp edge, if you like. Once I got the background in, I realised that I needed something to give me a nice sharp edge. So for the very first time, I looked at using stencils. Now, stencils were really weird because when you're first using a Wacom pen, I was sort of, you can see I'm struggling, wondering how to move the thing, and I'm looking through menus and stuff. I just want to rotate it. And I discovered that by pressing the right button on the stencil pencil, I could move it. And by holding that button down and pressing the Alt key, I could rotate it. And there we go. And if I hold the Control key, I can resize it. So once I'd done that, I was away. And I could use that stencil to start putting in this little tower. And I could have done with using the brush a bit smaller. Or maybe if I'd have, because I'm having to rub away areas where it's smudged on the outside of the stencil. So I had to use the eraser for that. So you can see the sharp edge of the hillside. I'm still using that slow flow Tinta to do that. And by sort of adjusting the angle of the brush, you can change the sharp edge. So I can put the sharp edge at the top of the hill. I'm going in with another stencil now, and I thought I'd just use a round stencil. And I upped the drip spread That's a nice feature. If you look closely at the bottom left, you'll see the drip spread. I've upped that up. And basically, it's like you're getting spatters over with the paint. So it sort of almost looks like you've stippled it, which gives this really nice look. I quickly discovered that I needed to, for every single one of these circles that I produced, I needed to put them on their own layer, so I could clean all the edges where I made messes away. And now I think I'm using the tendril brush. And then I started to remember my airbrushing techniques, where you have to sort of move from left to right and right to left in one nice, clean, even movement. And if you're using the airbrush, you'd keep it exactly the same distance away from the surface if you want to get a nice, even look to your paint. So as you can see, I'm sort of overlaying these colours, and I'm having a lot of fun with this, sort of looking out the window of my new studio, looking at the birds on the bird feeder and everything. So it really was quite inspirational. As I start looking through the stencils, there's really loads to choose from, and I was trying this bark stencil to see if I could do something with that for the trunks of the trees, and it just wasn't working. I didn't like that at all, so I eventually scrapped that idea. But you'll see that my work area is getting cluttered with stencils, because it took me absolutely ages to work out how to delete those. And the way to actually get rid of the stencils when you're done, you've got to use the mouse, and you can move the mouse over the stencil. And if you just right click, if you right click and hold, you can move the stencil. But if you just right click it, it brings up this little sub menu, and it's got things like you can flip the stencil horizontally or vertical, and you can also invert it, which is quite cool. And there was an option to remove it. So a bit later on, I did go in there and start using that to remove the stencils. And I also decided to merge. I think I merged all of those three trees together. Yeah, I wanted to push them up, and the easiest way to do it was to merge the three layers together and push them up. And then I use the tendril brush. I up the taper length so I get a longer spray, just to put in these tree trunks. So it's not so much as a painting as a sort of a graphic image, but I had a lot of fun doing it. It was really fun, really different, just trying these two new techniques. And I was thinking that you could use this for some really cool, I guess I'm sort of thinking futuristic type artwork for drawing really clean, metallic looking robots and things. Takes me back to when I was a student looking through airbrush books back in the day, and there was lots of images of robots that had been done with airbrushes. Yeah, I was sort of changing the colour a little bit. Again, using that tendril brush to put in the ground below the trees so they don't look like they are floating. I went away. At this point, I discovered how to delete all of the stencils, and I went away and I thought it's still not quite right. I think there's a lot of white in the background and in the foreground, and I want to add some colour. So I just created a layer below all of the other colours, and I used the big and subtle airbrush just to spray in some colour onto the background, really. And this was just the sort of final touches to finish that off. And I'm zooming in, so I assume I'm going to sign this. There we go. I've got it signed. Still tweaking it a bit. I felt that last tree just needed a little edge put in on the left hand side to it. It looked like it was floating a bit, and I did it freehand, so I had to have a few goes just to get that absolutely right. But I was in the end I was really pleased with it. So that's getting really close to the end. Let's get that painting saved. I'm terrible for not saving these pictures. And that is it. That is my first piece of artwork done in my new studio. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, big thumbs up as always is much appreciated. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I've got lots of videos like this and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.